Hey guys, so recently I've been playing around with Docker and Heroku and how to get your application up on Heroku so you can start using it on the internet. And I found this a little bit challenging at first, but after reading the documentations and a few Medium articles, I was able to figure it out. And there are some tutorials online on how to do it, but there isn't really anything to show you how to redeploy to Heroku. So I wanted to show you how to deploy to Heroku and then redeploy. So what you gonna have to do to get started is you want to have to set up a Heroku account. So I've already got a Heroku account. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sign into my Heroku account. Okay, if you don't have an account, then you're going to have to create an account. Now, once that account has been created or you've signed in, then you're going to have a list of all your applications. So this is a recent application that I just deployed. It's called Ryan's Questions, and that all that application is it's an application that I did on Treehouse, and I've been using it lately to practice things like Docker and deployment and a few other things. So what I want to show you is how I'm going to deploy my application to Heroku. Okay, so what you're going to want to have to do first is, so you've signed in, you've got a Heroku account, but then you also, if you haven't got Docker, you're going to want the Docker command line tools. So you're going to want to have to install those. Um, if you just go through the Docker documentation, it will tell you how to install the Docker command line tools. I think maybe if you went, yeah, maybe install. I haven't done this in a while. Install maybe Mac. Install Docker Desktop for Mac. Yeah, that sounds about, yep. Download from Docker Hub. Yeah, this looks right. So just follow these documentations to get set up with the Docker CLI, command line interface. And then once you've got that installed, then what you're going to want to have to install then is the Heroku CLI. And I think that's Heroku CLI is pretty straightforward. So I've got a Mac, so you can download it via Mac. I just went this line here, brew tap Heroku. So if you've got Homebrew installed, you can do it like this, and I just copy and paste this into my terminal and install the Heroku CLI. So once you have the Docker CLI installed and the Heroku CLI installed, what you want to have to do is you want to set up an image, and that image is then going to upload to Heroku. But when you're running an image, you're going to want to have a Docker file. Okay, and that Docker file is essentially just a list of steps in order to set up your image. Okay, so when you run npm and init and all that sort of stuff, that's all in your Docker file. So there's a few courses out there. I'll add a link in the description on how to set up a Docker file. And a course that I used, a really good course on Udemy, that told me how to set up my Docker file so that I could set it up for production. I could set it up in my sandbox, and I could also use it for testing and things like that. So that's really good. But the first thing you want to have to do is you're going to want to have a Docker file, because without a Docker file, then you're not going to be able to build your image. Okay. So once I've got my Docker file installed, what I want to do is I want to build my image, and I want to run my image. So if I go into my terminal, okay, I want to build my image. Okay, so when I build my image, I have to get the current directory that my app is in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the current directory that my application is in. It's in my developer folder. projects, web, and this is the one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cd into this one. Okay, now I am in that current directory. So now what I want to do is I want to build this Docker. I want to build an image, okay, of my actual application. So what I want to do is I want to go. How does it go? It goes Docker build -t, and then the name I want to call it. I'll just call it. Give me one. Wait, hold on. Let me just see if I've got any containers running. Okay, so I've got a container running. So let me just close down that container. So we go Docker stop, and I'll just put in the first letters. Docker stop. Oh, whoops, I got the wrong ID. My bad. And let's go Docker PS to see if there's any containers running. So I have no containers running at the moment. Okay, so let's set up an image of my application. So let's go Docker build -t, and then what I want to do is I want to name it. So I'll just call it question tester. So that's what I'm going to call it, question tester. And then I am going to, I just want to run the production. So how did I do that again? The target was production, okay. So yours might look a little bit different than this. Yours might be Docker build -t, and then the name of your app. You don't have to do -- target prod, but you will have to have the full stop on the end, which is your current directory. And we're in the directory of the application that I want to build the image for. So once I've done that, I've built my image. Okay, so if I go Docker images, you should see it, question tester, this one here. I don't know why it says 2 hours ago, but that is the most recent one, question tester. I probably have to clean up a few of these, but what I want to do now is I want to build it. So if I go Docker build question tester, Docker build question tester. Hold on. Sorry guys. Docker run. I want this in detached mode so I can still use this terminal window. Docker run -t question tester. Sorry if I'm a little bit slow, but I'm just kind of thinking through the process. You know, like, I'm not perfect, you know, and I still there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of things that you have to remember. So it kind of takes time for me to retrieve that information and, you know, kind of actually think through the process. Okay, so now if I go Docker PS, you can now see that I've got that container running. Okay, so this is my container ID, and I've got this container running right now. So now what I want to do is I want to set this container up on Heroku. Okay, so I've got my apps. So I want to create an app. I want to create an app on here. Okay. Now there's different documentation and different ways to go about doing this. Okay, but I found this really good article on Medium, and I will add it in the description. But it's by Travis Reeder. So I guess you check it out. You know, have a read through it, give him a few claps because it's a wicked article. Okay. Now the first thing that I went through was this Docker build -t You can run it and test it out to see if it's working. I've tested this out previously, so I know it's 100% working. Okay, and what you want to have to do is you want to have to log in to Heroku and then create an app. Okay, so we just follow these steps here. So we've got Heroku container login. So I'm literally just going to copy and paste that. I might clear this. Give me a bit more space. Command V, Heroku container login. Now just wait. Logging succeeded. Now I want to create my app. Okay. Now this will create my app on Heroku. So it's just creating my app. So now I can see it's called Blooming Inlet. So now if I go back to Heroku and I refresh, it should be up here. Blooming Inlet. So this is my application right here, but I still haven't set my container up on it. So what I still need to do is I still need to set my container up on it. Now, you can do it like this and go Heroku container push web, but that didn't work for me every single time. What worked for me was these few steps down here. So by logging in and then pushing to my actual application. So in order to log in, what I had to do was I had to get an auth token. Okay, so if I go Heroku auth token, this should give me a token that I can use to then log into Heroku. So this is my token right here. Okay, so what I then want to do is I just then want to log in. So I want to use this command here to log in. So I want to grab this auth token, this special token, and then I also want to add my username, which is my email. Okay, so I've got logging succeeded. So now I am logged in and I can now deploy my container. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that I don't have to do docker build-t here, but what I can do is I can do this one right here. The command will return a NAT name, copy it to use it for the next command. Okay, so Heroku container push will push the current container that is running at this moment. So that's kind of how I've figured it out, is the current container that's running, that is what Heroku will push. And your app name is this name right here. So this is your app name, Blooming Inlet. So that's your app, okay? So now we're going to push this container up to the app, Blooming Inlet. So this might take a minute or so to go through. Okay, so now that I've got my container set up, if I release this, if I refresh, it should update. Okay, well, it's still the same, but what I need to do is I need to release it. Okay, so this isn't in the document, this isn't in the Medium article. Okay, there's nothing about release. I think this is something new that Heroku's done. But what I want to do is I just want to go Heroku. And as you can see here, we have to do container release. Now, I think this is not 100% correct. Yes. Okay. So what it says is error missing required flag. Container release, where at release. So let me go back into my personal apps, and if I go into Blooming Inlet and I go to deploy and I go to container registry, then if you scroll down to the bottom, it says Heroku container release web. But if you notice, Jesus, Ryan, that won't work either because we have to add the flag. Okay, so we go dash dash help. What we want to do is we want to add -a, which is required app to run command against. So this is the name of our app. So I'm going to go -a, and the name of our app is, if I scroll back up here, so I've just added the app name in there. Okay, so now it's releasing images and it's all good. So now if I go back to my app on Heroku and I refresh and I go open app, it should open my application. Now this is what I was expecting, because this is just a RESTful API, a very simple RESTful API that just has JSON. Okay, so now my app is now running up on Heroku. Okay, but now what I want to do is I've just gone back and I've just worked on my application, and now I want to add new changes to Heroku. Okay, so I've got an example route that I want to use. It's just a test route just to see if, just for demonstration purposes. So I'm just gonna chuck it in here, and I'm gonna save that. Okay, so now if I go /question/test, it should return this H1 test page. Okay, so now in order to deploy, what I want to do is I'm going to clear this, and I've still got a Docker container running, as you can see. So I don't want this container anymore. Now I don't 100% know if this is the best way to do it, but this is just kind of how I've figured out how to do it. So what I want to do is I want to stop this container. I'll just put 6A for the first two, and if I go Docker PS, that container's now stopped. Okay, so now if I scroll back through my commands, Docker build -t question. We'll just call this question tester 1. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to build the image, and then we're going to run the container. So I'm building the image. Now if I go Docker run -d, let me see the images there first. Docker images. Yep, so we've got question tester 1. Now if I go Docker run -t, which is detached mode, Docker run -d, and then the name of my image. Okay, so now if I go Docker PS, we can see now that container is running because I have a container ID and I've got the name of the image. So now what I want to do is I'm still logged in to Docker. I'm still logged into Heroku, but what I now want to do is I want to push the existing container up onto Heroku, and then I want to release that container, if that makes sense. So in order to do that, you might have to go back through these steps and grab the Heroku auth token, run that in your terminal, and then you might have to log in again. And then once you've done that, then we can go through these steps here. So what we want to do is we want to be honest, yeah, so that step that I just did, building the image, I probably didn't even have to do that. So I can actually I'm kind of working this out as I go, guys. So now that that is closed down, because what I'm trying to say here is I didn't actually have to build that container, because this line will build it for me. Docker build-t. It's exactly the same thing, and it's going to upload it. It's just going to build it with Docker and Heroku. So what I want to do, what's going on here? Okay. So when it says your app name, my app name is this blooming inlet. So I'm going to put that in there, blooming inlet. Okay, so I just built it then using the current version of my app. Now what I want to do is I want to push it up to Heroku for that current app. So where it says your app name, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to sorry. I'm just going to grab this again. And I'm going to push my current container, my current image up to Heroku. Now this shouldn't take as long because there's already, there's only a very small change. Okay, so that's all good. Now I've pushed it up to Heroku, but it's still not going to be live until I release it. So if I go deploy, container registry. Hey bud, can you turn that down? I'm just recording something.
Were you meant to be at work?
Yeah, hold on. I'll tell you about that in a second. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Heroku container release web, and remember we want -a for the application, and we want the name of the application, which is blooming inlet. Okay, so now the release is done. If I go back into my application, it should say, yeah, so just now I've deployed a new version. Now if I refresh this, it should still be live. and if I go /test, it comes up with my H1 element. So that's just a quick video on how to deploy to Heroku using Docker. I'll add a few links in the description. If you have any problems, please drop me a message below and I will be more than happy to help you out. Thank you.